The objective of this scan was to take a look at hydrodemolition in terms of how it could benefit states in their preservation and rehabilitation strategies for bridge decks in particular. States have been challenged in finding efficient and cost-effective and timely methods in order to maintain their roads. What we found is that hydrodemolition offers a lot of benefits. One, to the traffic control and how quickly you can return vehicles and the public to the road. Another is in terms of how long you have workers out on site. And the third is the surface that it provides for bonding for a new material that you're putting back on the decks. We were able to get a wide variety of states involved in this scan, states with different levels of experience with hydrodemolition or in various stages of implementation. So getting all those perspectives together, we had people from the design side, from the construction side, from asset management and maintenance, and that really provided a lot of great perspectives. The contributing states on the scan team were Utah, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Washington, D.C., State of Washington, New Jersey. We had support from FHWA and Iowa State. In addition, we had presenters from Idaho, North Carolina, Kentucky, Missouri, Illinois, Ohio, Montana, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Some of the key findings from the scan were how states have chosen to implement hydrodemolition into their preservation and rehabilitation. A lot of states had very different philosophies on when to use it as their means of removal in terms of what state of need the decks were in. A lot of the states have different methods of starting off the hydrodemolition in terms of, do they use some sort of mechanical scarification before you introduce the water to the deck, and what were the benefits of that? We talked a lot about what the appropriate depth for a hydrodemolition is, and again, that goes back to philosophy on the states as to what they're trying to achieve. And so states setting realistic goals as to what their objectives are for hydrodemolition made it very obvious that it was directly correlated to how successful that treatment would be. We also talked a lot about what material you put back, and again, the states had a lot of different perspectives on what type of material, and a lot of times that related to the depth that they were going with the removal. We also had a lot of discussions on the environmental considerations, and you could see some of the states that have been doing this for a lot longer, where they've come with their environmental regulatory agencies and how it's accepted in their state, how contractors perceive it, as some of the states that are sort of more in an infancy state, how they needed to overcome those challenges. Some of the biggest takeaways from this scan has to do with implementation in terms of when is it the right time or the right treatment for an agency. And what it came down to is states really need to set up some decision matrix on what they're trying to achieve and how they're going to go about it. And some of those decisions have to do with what the condition is of the deck at time of treatment. Accepting this hydrodemolition as a means of removal, again, it's not a new technology, it's just how states are using it. A lot of states give the contractor an option of hydrodemolition versus a mechanical means of removal. And we looked at the different performances that they had on the two different ways of removing that material before you rehabilitate the deck. We also found there was a lot of crossovers and challenges in the terminology. So one of the things that we're kind of tasked with is to come up with consistent terminology so that when we're talking nationally, that we're all kind of talking about the same thing. And that was a lot to do with sort of one of the key components of hydrodemolition is calibration. You know, how do you set the equipment to meet your needs? And we found that if you knew what your needs were, it wasn't hard to set the equipment to achieve it. You just had to understand what your objective was. We also talked a lot about training and specifications, and that the success of hydrodemolition really depends on how well you have defined your expectations in the spec, how well your contractors understand your expectations, and how well your construction field personnel are aware of what you're doing so that they can enforce it and help the success of the project.